Okay, in the accounting profession, as in many professions, there are three ways to grow. One client at a time, new business, which we refer to as organic growth. But with the economy sort of its unstableness over the past couple of years, stemming back from the 2008 recession, and competition from all sides has made sort of that harder. I mean, it's still obviously possible to grow organically, and many firms have done so and continue to do so. But that's also given rise to growing, as I point out in my third bullet point here, merge or acquire another firm, or you can develop new marketable niches. And one of them, which comes to mind, was the one I referred to a couple of slides back, cybersecurity. For a little bit of just to backtrack a little, for 25 years plus, our company has dealt probably 99.9% with CPA firms. Once in a while, we'll deal with some financial firms looking to merge, but just recently we have facilitated 3 mergers with pure cybersecurity firms that have attached themselves to CPA firms. So that's one of the new ways, or avenues of growth, so to speak. Reasons why firms merge. They fall into 2 categories. Firms that are seeking growth, obviously, by combining with another firm, obviously the synergy of another firm, or firms seeking to solve a problem. And when I say solve a quote-unquote problem, it's usually a succession problem. Firms haven't planned properly for succession, and we're going to look at the problems that results in. Know your reasons to merge. Don't merge because everybody is doing it, and we'll see a slide that warns of the dangers of that. Know why you want to merge, and probably more importantly, know the other firm's reasons why they want to merge. You know, I heard one of our clients recently said, "Well, I'm merging with a bigger firm," and I said, "Just remember, bigger isn't necessarily better. Better is better." That's just something to keep in mind. Why is the activity so high? Since 2011, which is not all that long ago, just 7 years, there have been more than 800 publicly announced mergers of CPA firms, and probably hundreds of smaller unions that went unreported. Obviously the larger mergers tend to generate more publicity, more press, both in the consumer and trade press. But how about the little, 1 and 2 partner firms that sort of go under the radar? There are probably hundreds of that people aren't aware of. And of course, the economy was a big reason for that. Look at 2006 to 2008. That was the boom years, especially in the accounting profession. People were actually turning down work. There was so much work to go around. Then 2009 to 2012, everybody was sort of still spinning because of the recession, whereas people were starting to undercut each other on prices. It was sort of a race to the bottom. Firms that didn't have to compete against much larger firms suddenly found themselves competing for the same clients. So that had a lot of impact on the accounting profession. There's the niche development, which we went into a little bit with cybersecurity and certainly financial planning and family offices and cost segregation, and certainly other specialty niches. And then you have the problem of the boomers, the baby boomers exiting. 78 million baby boomers will be retiring. Now, the baby boomers, depending on which gauge you read, either usually go from those born in 1946 through those born in 1964. Either way, 78 million of them are retiring out of the workforce. So they've got a large talent void to fill. And then technology, the impact of technology on the new marketplaces, and cross-selling. One of the advantages if you merge with a larger firm is they have a larger platform of client services. Your existing, maybe things that the smaller firm that merged up didn't have, and they could cross-sell that to their clients. So it's sort of a, not to use a cliche phrase, but it's sort of a win-win for everybody when that happens. Okay, succession planning. Here's some shocking statistics. The AICPA's small PCPS section, which deals primarily with small and mid-sized firms, does a survey every 4 years. And the results that come in are fairly shocking as to how many firms have not done proper succession planning. Just look at some of these bullet points here. 61% of firm partners in the U.S. are over the age of 50. 80% of multi-owner firms expect succession planning to be the most important issue over the next 10 years. Just 46% of multi-owner firms, less than half, have a formal succession plan in place. And for firms with less than 15 employees, which constitute a large number of firms across the United States, 70% of those do not have a succession plan. All right, starting the transition process. Probably one of the most frequent questions we get asked by our clients is, when should we start? And I always answer the same thing. Succession planning should ideally begin on the first day you open for business. Should always have a succession plan. But that's rarely ever the case. So what we like to say is 5 to 7 years is usually an adequate time frame. While that might sound like a lot, think of it this way. Most accounting firms see their clients in person, in their office, across the desk from them, once a year. And when is that? That's usually at tax time, which is coming up very, very, very quickly. All right? I mean, they may call their clients, they may email their clients, they may send scans to their clients, fax to their clients. But physically, clients are usually, the majority of their client base is usually only in their office one time a year, and that's at tax time. So if you want to transition out in 5 years or slow down from full time, when you think about it, that's only really 5 client visits. And you've got to get them acclimated to your new successor firm. Then you've got to have enough time for that successful client handoff to who's ever going to assume your clients and your workload. So it's really not that long a time period as people initially think. And we always ask when someone says, "Well, I don't know how I want to start slowing down." We never use the R word, retire, because that sort of gives a permanence to the question. What I like to say is, how many more tax seasons do you want to work full time? Not part-time, full time. And that usually gives them a better barometer of how long they want to work. And then again, the client face time. Like I said, they may call their clients several times a month, but when they're actually in the office, it's usually only one time a year. And then, you have to think about things which are often overlooked in the merger process. The investments that have to be made, including technology, leases that might have to be assumed, your staff. I mean, is there going to be room for staff? Are they going to be offered a position with the successor firm? So there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration for the M&A process. And what would help is what I always recommend is an annual succession checklist. And there's some key questions, whether you're thinking about merging or whether you're just continuing on. You should ask these questions each year. Have any of your partners, if you have a multi-partner firm, have their career or retirement goals changed over the past year? Do you have any partners who want to reduce their time commitment over the next 5 years? Do we have any critical staff now closing in on retirement? Now, many people don't realize that the staff, while they may not be CPAs or they may not be partners or equity stakeholders, many of them have a lot of client contact. The client recognizes maybe the administrator who's there, or even the receptionist, who always, if they have a close relationship with many of your clients, and you merge and they're not there, that could cause a problem. And if so, do you have the capacity to replace them? Have any new partners been admitted or have left the firm? Do any of the above require changes to our current succession plan or ownership agreement? So those are some of the questions that you need to ask every year. As an addendum to that, maybe a second part, have you added or closed a client service niche? Are you thinking of adding another location, another office? Have you gained or lost a large client? Has there been a significant change in revenues, whether for the better or for the worse? Is there a downturn in the national economy or even the local economy? I mean, if you're in a CPA firm that services, real estate, if you remember the 2008 recession, real estate and construction was hammered. So if you were a CPA firm that had real estate or construction clients, you suffered a severe drop in business, or a sudden loss of the partners, a resignation, death or disability, things that aren't planned for. So those are some of the questions you should be reviewing each year. Okay, let's look at we had talked about how many people don't have a succession plan. Let's look at a true case study of someone who procrastinated with regard to succession planning. We were dealing with a $1 million sole practitioner, which is a nice little, good little book of business for someone who's working by themselves. His firm was in the Northeast. We had put him into meetings with several firms, potential successor firms, but he decided he wanted to wait another year. At the 11th hour, he wanted to wait one more year before he started the whole process again. But in the interim, here's a couple of things that he didn't expect that happened. One of his key employees resigned, and I had spoken about how important, an employee, whether it is a partner or someone who has a lot of client contact, is suddenly gone. One of his large growing clients suddenly became at risk because they needed services that the sole practitioner didn't offer. And I talked about the advantages of going with a larger firm because they have a larger platform of client services that the smaller firm could cross-sell to their clients. He had not paid much attention to his IT system, and it finally just imploded, and he needed something on the order of a $70,000 upgrade that he didn't plan for. And now, unfortunately, he's open to any offer that comes along instead of managing the process in an orderly fashion. So that's just one case study, and I have numerous amounts of them, of people who had procrastinated and nothing good ever becomes of that. Okay, the 7 steps in an actual deal. First thing to do is author a generic practice information, including your goals, which is sort of a basic financial schematic of your firm without obviously, we provide forms and documents for them to fill out. Obviously that we assign them a number. This is how we do it. We're real big on confidentiality. Well, they give, their billing rates, how many 1040s they do, annual billings, partner compensation, staff compensation, net profit, just some basic metrics. So anybody looking at that would get an idea of whether you're a good practice or a bad practice, or maybe something that's not in their wheelhouse, so to speak. Organize your must-haves. Say, look, maybe I don't want to relocate. Maybe I want to keep my office. My longtime assistant has to stay with me. Identify what your merger partner should look like. It's amazing how many people say, "Oh, well, we'll just see who wants to meet with us." Well, you should have a definite idea of what type of firm you would like to affiliate with, and we'll go into the things such as chemistry and culture and how critical that is. Have your initial meetings. Then, if you meet with 5 firms, then you say, okay, let's have your brides, your bridesmaids, maybe have someone on deck, and the other, maybe 2 you forget about because you don't really have much in common. So you narrow the playing field, and then maybe you encourage a non-binding offer, sort of a general overview of terms. Let's agree to this, let's agree to that, because there's no sense doing due diligence when nobody's agreed to any terms. One of the biggest colossal wastes of time is if you go through the often painful process of due diligence, and it's a time-consuming, exhaustive process, and then all of a sudden you sit down at contract time and say, hey, we didn't agree to that. That is just a colossal waste of time for everybody. Once you agree to the terms, then you do the due diligence, and finally you sit down and you close the deal. That's just a very, very generic overview, oversimplification of the process. We'll go into it in a little deeper detail.